With the NBA season reaching its end, my sights are already set onto the next season. One of the things that I'm always excited about is the players that take that next leap, whether it's from a role player to a star, or just becoming a very good contributor to a contending team. This season we had players such as Tyrese Maxey, Kobe White, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Williams, and Jalen Johnson all have breakout seasons, showing that they have the ability to take their team to the next level. Going into the 2025 season, I have some players that I believe have the chance to take a jump, and I will be listing about 10 players, so if you have anyone you don't hear on this list that you think will break out, let me know down below who else you think will take a leap next season. On this list, I tried not to include many rookies since them improving is really a matter of course, though I included about one and there's a big reason why, so with that out of the way, let's begin. Number 1, I have Ayo Dosunmu. This season he averaged 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists on 50-40-80 splits. He improved his efficiency from last season despite an increase in volume and was a much better 3-point shooter, shooting 31% from 3 in the 2023 season to a now improved 40% shooter on 4 attempts a game. A lot of his shots are mainly off the catch. He shot 40% on catch and shoot threes, 38% from the corner, and an even better 44% on above the break threes. He's got a quick first step that allows him to be a great coast-to-coast player in transition, and he's great defensively. Good IQ, positions himself well, has active hands, plays well in the gaps, and is lateral enough to stick with shifty players. The reason why I believe he'll have his breakout season next year is due to what he's shown when given the opportunity. This season he came off the bench in almost half his games, averaging 9 points in 22 minutes per game, but with the injuries the Bulls faced this season, in the 37 games he did start, he averaged 15, 4, and 5 a game on 50-42 splits. Post All-Star break he averaged 17, 4, and 5, shooting 50% from the field and 38% from 3, showcasing his ability to be effective in his increased minutes. If Zach LaVine is traded, which I'm pretty sure he will be, there will be more room for Ayo to operate in, and these starting opportunities next to Kobe White will become more frequent and maybe even permanent. Another thing about him is that he's on one of the best contracts in the league. Last offseason he signed a 3-year $21 million contract, so he's only making about $7 million a year, and he's honestly worth more than he's getting paid, so it was really a steal for the Bulls. Number 2, I have Jalen Green. And if you've at least somewhat been following the Rockets the past few seasons, this may come off as a reach because these predictions of him breaking out have been happening for years. In this season he averaged 25 and 4, shooting 42% from the field and 33% from 3. It was kind of a down year compared to last season when he averaged 22 points, though with the improvement of Alfred Sengun, it wasn't exactly unexpected that his offensive responsibilities were reduced. The thing about Jalen Green is that he often has these small stretches each season where he comes and looks like the star that people believe he can be. However, the stretch this season he had was much more different than the others in my opinion. In March he averaged 28 points per game, 6 rebounds and 4 assists on 49-41 splits, leading the Rockets to a 13-2 record, and although they ultimately were unable to make the play-in, he was extremely productive offensively while contributing to winning, and defensively he was somewhat more locked in than usual. When you're someone like him that is one of the most athletic players in the league, and he has all these tools for being a good scorer, the loose handle, the inability to handle contact well enough to efficiently finish at the rim, and the constant bad shots don't contribute to him being able to be that scorer that people want him to be. We saw these things improve during that stretch, and while I don't expect him to be that 28 point per game scorer next year, I think his improved confidence and experience will finally lead him to a season he's been expected to have for a while. And if that doesn't happen, then he'll probably be gone, who really knows. Number 3, I have Nikola Jovic. He will be going to his 3rd season, and in this scenario, I'm saying this under the assumption that he's still with the Heat because of the fact that they're still looking to get a star, and Jovic is one of their most valuable trade pieces that could be included in a trade. Jovic only played 46 games this season, as he's more of a raw type of player who still needs development, but in the games he did play due to the Heat being riddled with injuries, he started in 38 of them. This season he averaged 8 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists on 45-40 splits. He showed a lot of promise as a player, with capable shooting ability, and most importantly, his playmaking talent was especially highlighted. He can bring the ball up the court, make good passes in transition, and his overall court vision allows for him to quickly move the ball around the court the moment he receives the ball. Defensively, he's improved, and the large amount of weight he's put on since he was drafted has helped in this. His length as a 6'10" forward allows him to defend well and drop coverage, and he can notice different actions and rotate with good timing to prevent good shots. He can be a little slow-footed when it comes to defending one-on-one, but he's getting there defensively. One thing about this Heat team is that they're extremely small. Bam Adebayo is usually the tallest player on the court for them at 6'9", despite them being a good defensive team, can still put them at a disadvantage. I've heard about Bam potentially getting moved to the 4 if they get another big that can play next to him, but if not, maybe Jovic can be that guy. I don't know if he's starter ready for next season, but I can see him playing more minutes alongside Bam. This season, in the 662 minutes he was on the court with Bam, the Heat had an 8.6 net rating, so there are positive signs of them together. My fourth player is Evan Mobley. A breakout for him next season would have mostly to do with his scoring. He's already one of the best defending bigs in the league, so that's not what I'm worried about. It's mainly the scoring that's needed improvement, which it has, but not to the point where the Cavaliers would want it to be if they want to have an above average offense. Especially when you're running a lineup with Evan Mobley at the 4 and Jarrett Allen at the 5, which just isn't a good lineup spacing wise. I think his series against the Celtics showed where he can get, though, offensively, as he's much better when it comes to attacking in space as opposed to backing down players in the post, being where he really struggled at. This season he was up to 16, 9, and 3 a game on 58-37 splits, and I think part of improving his scoring ability is getting a competent 3-point shot. In the playoffs, it wasn't really good. He shot 28% from 3, but it's good to see him taking them. In the Celtics series, he averaged 21 points per game, and to do that against one of the best defenses in the NBA is impressive in of itself. On to my fifth player, I have Malik Monk, and this is more of a conditional prediction. He's a free agent this offseason, and while he could re-sign with the Kings, he could also go to the Magic, who have more money that they can throw at him. The Magic are a team that I feel are over-reliant on Paolo and Franz Wagner to be their primary ball handlers. Monk could finally insert himself into the starting lineup with himself, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, and Paolo Banchero. In Sacramento, he was a microwave scorer off the bench that helped close out games and also provided secondary playmaking. I believe that he's a good enough playmaker to take off some of the burdens on Paolo and Franz, and he helps when it comes to scoring, since the Magic need to improve in that area. He averaged 15, 3, and 5 off the bench for the Kings, and I even found a stat where when he played more than 30 minutes this season, he averaged 23, 4, and 7, shooting 40% from 3. My sixth player is Trey Murphy III. With the trading of Brandon Ingram almost seeming inevitable because of his expiring contract, he likely would be the player to step up into the starting lineup. He averaged 15, 5, and 2 on 44-38 splits, which was a bit of a down year from his previous season, but he also tore his meniscus before the season started, so there's a lot of leeway there, and I think he'll have a lot of improvement next season. This season, he increased his 3-point volume from 6 to 8 threes while keeping similar efficiency, and while he needs to get better defensively, it's progressively getting better. One thing that would make him all the more dangerous is off-ball movement. Too many times he's just spotting up, waiting for the ball, and maybe an increased role next season will get him some more actions to get better quality shots. His self-creation could use work as well, and that would take him to the next level as a scorer. My seventh player is Onyeka Okongwu. Onyeka, despite being the 6th overall pick in 2020, has not been the main starting center for the Hawks. He's an undersized center at 6'8", great finisher around the rim, and he's a switchable big, which is a plus. Not many teams have the luxury of having a big that defends well in space, but he also fouls way too much. Way too much. For someone who gets about 26 minutes per game, he averaged 2.9 fouls this season, and in the games he started, he averaged 3.8, which is way too high. As a frame of reference, Bam Adebayo averages 2.2 a game, Jarrett Allen is 1.9 a game, and Rudy Gobert is 3.1 a game. Even his teammate Clint Capella, who starts over him, averages 2.2 a game, which is less than him. To be able to be the Hawks' main starter, there are multiple conditions that have to be met. 1, he's got to reduce the fouling, and 2, more length needs to be added onto the team. Outside of Capella, who is 6'10", the tallest player in the rotation is Onyeka, so he needs help on that end. The Hawks putting out a lineup with their tallest player being 6'8" just won't be a recipe for winning basketball games, and with their pick most likely being a big, it may be possible to put Onyeka at the 4 and push Jalen Johnson to the 3. Onyeka this season began taking a lot more threes, about 1 per game compared to his 0.2 in 2023. He shot them at a rate of 33%, and as a spot-up big, I'd say that's pretty decent. In the 8 games he started this year, he averaged 16 and 9, shooting 66% from the field and 47% from 3 on 2 attempts a game. So if he can at least shoot 35% from 3 next season on like 2 to 3 attempts, he'll help open up the Hawks offense as the paint is pretty clogged with Clint Capella as their starter. And if you've been watching the Hawks this season, you know Clint Capella, he's been difficult to watch. Jalen Johnson's about 36% on 4 threes a game, so I don't think that moving him to the 3 will be as big of a problem. All that's left is to add their big, whether it's Alex Sarr or maybe Donovan Clingan, who I'm hearing the Hawks have taken interest in, possibly in a trade down in the draft. But as a Hawks fan that's high on Onyeka, I really do hope to see further development. My 8th player is Immanuel Quickley. The breakout I'm expecting is somewhat of a continuation of his play from the latter point of the season. Overall, this season he averaged 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists, and he averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists once he was traded to the Raptors. Post All-Star break, he averaged 21, 6, and 8 on 44-38 splits, leaning more into the PG role, a role which he wasn't usually tasked with playing when he was in New York. He's a plus playmaker and he can play off the ball and come off screens while basically being his 40% 3-point shooter on like 7 attempts. I'm personally not under the agreement that these are just bad numbers on a bad team, because he was doing this as one of the focal points of defensive attention during the time when Scottie Barnes was out with an injury. If it was so easy to put up these stats on bad teams, we wouldn't be seeing players like Jordan Poole struggle once the defense is key in on them. My 9th player is Julian Strawther, and he's the rookie that I mentioned at the start of the video. The reason why I included him out of all rookies is because of the situation that the Denver Nuggets are currently in. They're a team that really struggles once Jokic is on the bench, and it's one of the reasons why they weren't as successful in these playoffs. They have one of the worst scoring bench units in the league, and there's a very obvious lack of shooting. Julian Strawther, while only being a 30% 3-point shooter this season, I do believe that with more minutes, because he did only play 10 minutes a game, and really none in the playoffs, that he can be a contributor to a better bench as long as there's an increase in 3-point volume, and the fact that he moves well off the ball increases his scoring versatility. So it's honestly more of a leap that I'm not certain will happen out of all the players on this list, but trust me, have I ever been wrong before? Maybe. My 10th and final player is Aaron Wiggins. He was quietly one of the most efficient players in the NBA this season. Granted, he only played 16 minutes a game. He averaged 7 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist a game on 56-49 splits, which I still think is pretty insane despite his minutes. Most of it's not in garbage time, and he took 377 shots this season, so it's pretty significant. In the 4 games he started, in 31 minutes he averaged 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists on 50-46 splits. So despite this increase in volume, he was still incredibly efficient. As a bench wing, the way he plays, it's like he's always trying to make the most out of what he sees from his teammates, being a good cutting threat, both off the ball and in screen and slips. He's also a capable defender, and I think what he's been able to do all around this season warrants an increase in minutes, and I do believe we'll be able to see that next season with him being in an increased role. That's the end of my list, though of course there are unquestionably more candidates for breaking out next season, so let me know down below another player you believe has a chance to do so. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.